Welcome to The Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. In this special episode, an exclusive interview with the president and CEO of one of the largest wine and alcohol retailers in the world, George Soleas of Ontario's LCBO. In a two-part interview, George shares the ins and outs and the art and science of his personal journey and work done to modernize the LCBO, work that is being pressure-tested today as an essential service. Next, he shares tips for retailers of all formats as they work to craft a playbook to open their stores and operate in the new business as unusual coronavirus retail environment. Next, Jennifer Huther, one of Canada's rare master sommeliers and one of less than 300 in the world with her designation, is my guest backstage at the Restaurants Canada trade show from early March. We talk about what it takes to be a master somm, trends in wine, and Jennifer shares her top tips for finding an amazing bottle to enjoy. But first, let's jump into my conversation with George Soleas from the LCBO. George, welcome to The Voice of Retail. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Good to be with you.
You know, one of my typical first questions is talking about your personal and professional journey. And you know, looking at your background, I also often talk about the art and science of retailing, but I rarely talk to someone with such science background and art together. So please tell us a little bit about your personal and professional journey right up to your role here at the LCBO.
Well, my career has been anything but a straight line. So I actually started in the hospitality industry before I came to Canada. And when I came to Canada, I did my Bachelor of Science degree at the University of McMaster, joined the wine industry, and decided to do a winemaking certificate at UC Davis. So I spent 3 consecutive years doing my winemaking, working at the wine industry, which was an amazing experience.
Now, what attracted you to the wine industry, like right off the hop?
Well, you know what? I had a call in 1985, 86 from a winery. There was a huge crisis in the wine industry. It was actually started by the LCBO. They had detected a potential carcinogen in wines, which became big news at the time. It was mishandled. It was sensationalized, and it started doing a lot of damage to the entire global wine industry. So people started testing for this compound called ethyl carbamate. So Anders Wines, a winery that I spent 11 years with, called me. The owner at the time was Dr. Peller, was a medical doctor, who said, I would like to know what's in my products before anyone else finds out. So I'd like someone to set up a quality assurance and a research department to test all the products that we have. And that's how I started. And as I said before, I spent 3 consecutive years doing my winemaking certificate at UC Davis, came back and started my master's and PhD at the University of Toronto, studying the effects of wine on the anti-atherogenic and anti-carcinogenic effects, which was fascinating. Publishing papers, working with some amazing people. And 11 years later, and I was really blessed to be with this industry. 11 years later, I had a call from the LCBO, and my career with the LCBO started.
Would that have been Bob Peters at that time?
No, it was actually Andy Brandt,
okay,
who called, and I went through the interview process, and I was given the job of a director of quality assurance for about a year, and then became the vice president. And I've taken on a number of different positions within the organization, from quality assurance to specialty services to sales and marketing, around supply chain, and I took on information technology, store development, and real estate, became the executive vice president, and the last 4 years, I've been blessed to be the CEO of this amazing organization, really a best-in-class organization, the LCBO.
Right. Well, it's a great segue to one of my next questions is tell us a little bit about the LCBO. All my listeners may not be from Ontario or familiar with LCBO. I'm personally, of course, very familiar with it, being from Ontario. In my lifetime, such change, you know, from going up and ordering and having, you know, alcohol handed to me across the counter in a brown paper bag. I mean, such transformation and change. But give us a bit of the scope and scale and a little bit about the LCBO.
Well, I'm glad that you know so much about the LCBO, Michael. I hope so. But you know, across the country, there are different models of retailing beverage alcohol. The LCBO is a Crown agency. It is owned by the province of Ontario. We have 670 stores in Ontario. We service 300 different communities. We also service a number of retailers that are not owned by the government. We service the grocers. There are about 450 grocery stores that are now selling beer and wine.
Is it up that high? Well, because that's fairly recent, right? In this province, has it been 2 years?
It has been about 3.5 years now. 450 of which most all of them sell beer and cider, and almost half of them they sell wine as well, what we call the universal licenses. Then we also wholesale to the beer store. We wholesale to almost 400 LCO stores. We used to call them the agency stores. So it's a competitive market for the LCBO right now.
Yeah.
Our revenue is approximately $6.3 billion, and last year we transferred to the government a dividend of about $2.3 billion. And again, that dividend is invested by the government in healthcare, in education,
better roads,
infrastructure projects, and so on. So it's, again, a best-in-class organization. It has an amazing social responsibility component as well. Where our stores and our people, where we work, we also give back to the communities we work in.
Now, at one time, and I think it's close to still the case, you were one of the largest wine buyers in the world as an organization. Just to put, again, for those who may not know the LCBO, just to put a sense of scale to your buying power and your sophistication, right?
We are one of the largest purchasers of alcohol, beverage alcohol in the world. That's true.
A couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, we were in New York together at the NRF. We saw each other and walking the endless aisles of NRF with that huge show. Any tech trends, stand out in your mind? It's kind of an operations tech show. You're a frequent visitor there to kind of see what's new. Anything jump out at you that you said, wow, that's interesting, or I'm specifically going to look for something for the organization?
I think it's a fantastic show. Every time I go there, I come back with a lot of learnings. And I take a team with me of 5 or 6 different people. And the way we do this, it's very productive. We set meetings with our suppliers or new suppliers. We know what we're looking for. But there are obviously innovative ideas there that we've never seen that are very intriguing, and we try to learn as much as we can. So, we're talking about a digital tsunami. And when you're in that expo there, you realize why it is a digital tsunami, because everybody's talking about digital.
Sure.
All the technology that they're displaying is about digital, is about artificial intelligence. So there's so much that we would love to do, but we also have to be very careful as to what we take on. We're not a bleeding edge organization when it comes to technology. We're always like to be the followers.
Fast follower in my experience.
It's safer to do that. But you're right. I mean, we're looking for a number of different technologies right now. The LCBO, for the longest period of time, didn't invest in new technology. Remember, we were the only game in town 5-6 years ago, so we felt that manual is great. We don't need to spend a lot of money in that area. Where the last 4 or 5 years, we've been playing catch-up.
Sure.
So we're rolling out some new technology. We want to be best in class moving forward. We want to be viable. We want to be we want to be able to service our customers as best as possible. And this technology is going to help us to do that. So great technology, whether it is in forecasting, whether it is in pricing, whether it is in security, and so much more. So, and obviously, talking to people, you learn a lot. Making those connections is incredibly important. But it's also incredibly important for my team to be there, to see all of that, to make those connections, to bring new ideas back, and to see what works for us better.
I saw a lot of, as you said, a lot of AI, a lot of data, but I saw what was interesting, and it's a theme that I'm picking up and hearing consistently from retailers is, how do I get my productivity in store, my conversions in store higher? Now, it's less an issue, I imagine, for your format, because people don't generally go to browse as they would in other formats as much. But I saw these, animated shelf displays that are really sophisticated. I saw some. I don't know if you caught this. A, they're animated, but B, they're starting to put machine vision into them.
Right.
So they have some sense of who's in front of them. I think this intersection of these technologies can be pretty powerful.
Absolutely, and we're looking at everything, Michael. We're looking at ways to become more efficient. We're looking at ways to become more customer centric. New customers today are looking for different things. So how can we service the customer the way the customer wants it rather than the way we want it?
Sure.
So all of that there are things that we're actually looking at. And we're testing a number of these technologies. And one of the things that we're trying to do right now is to introduce more digital technology into the stores. For example, we're testing a digital wall right now, where not only it would help us to provide more product knowledge easier, we can provide the product to the customer faster, but it would also save us space and labor costs as well.
Right.
So when you look at this technology, it's not only the customer experience, it's also the efficiencies that you gain from that technology. So we are looking at everything that we feel will help us to serve the customer better, to make us a more efficient organization, and to convert more of the sales to the bottom line, of course.
Well, let's pick up on the thread of themes, of trends. So I was at the Restaurant Canada show this weekend,
right,
and I interviewed a master sommelier, Jennifer Huth, and she was telling me about.
I know Jenny.
She was telling me about vegan wine, and I was like, I had no idea such thing existed or what was it. So it kind of opened my eyes to trends. I saw in the newspaper people lining up for a White Claw at the at your locations this weekend. So give me a sense of the trends you're seeing and how an organization like yourself goes about merchandising and thinking about assortment. You've got a lot of choice, infinite choice.
Absolutely.
But now I start to think like Professor Scott Galloway talks about too much choice actually being a tax on consumers' time. Like you need better curation, which is what you do, right? There's an infinite amount of choice. To give me a sense of trends and then how you form that into a merchandising strategy.
Yeah, I mean, look, our merchandising team is committed to travel the world and find the best, most innovative products. I always say that the world is our shopping basket. But not only that, we also talk to our suppliers in a collaborative way to see what works elsewhere. What are some of the innovative ideas that they've introduced in other markets? Are they getting the sales? Is there excitement from these products? And it's not just the liquid, it's also the packaging.
Sure.
Some of the packaging that we see today is very appealing, especially to the millennials.
Yeah, I think of the 39 Crimes line with the interactive labels.
That's
stuff
one of
like
them.
That,
but
right?
cans is the other. I mean, those nice, sleek, nicely designed cans.
Narrow,
wine.
tall.
That's right. Wine, sparkling wine, maybe some of the ready-to-drink, different flavors, lower sugar, lower alcohol. People are into their nutrition these days. They would like to drink and eat products that are healthier for them. So we're trying to find products that are appealing to our customers. You mentioned White Claw. I mean, that's one of the products that is doing really well. Pink Whitney is the other one that you're going to see very soon coming to our stores. We love to try new products, and where possible, we try our best to be the first to bring these products into the Canadian market.
All right.
And we've done pretty good in this area. The other area that we try to promote these products is our online, our e-commerce and our mobile commerce, where we entice the customers to come on and to try different things. We've got a number of different programs for the customers to try.
Well, you solved a big problem in my life, which was you'd put out your vintages book every couple of weeks, and then it would be the Easter egg hunt to go to the stores to find the ones I was looking for. Now, Saturday morning, cup of coffee, I open up the book, I place my order, it's delivered to my local LCBO store. I'm not in a rush. In my scenario, I'm not in a rush for it. I buy the ones I'm looking for, and it's delivered to my local store. They know me. It's great.
Isn't that amazing? And it's going to get better. So we are actually looking at our online. I know that we need to do a little bit of a revamp to our online and to tweak things. So we're doing that as we speak. So we will have a dedicated e-commerce distribution center so that we will be able to service the online much better. So I think you're going to see more and more power into our online. Right. The other thing that we do as well that I should mention is we work very closely with our local market. We have some amazing wineries and distilleries and craft brewers in our backyard. Yep. Wonderful products. I mean, I think
Prince Edward County,
Niagara on the Lake, Pili Island. Those are some of the regions. The St. Catharines area, the Bench. Those are areas that produce some fabulous wines, whether it's the Riesling, the Chardonnay, or their Cap Franc, or some of the craft beers that we have. And craft breweries have increased exponentially in Ontario, the same with the craft distilleries. So really wonderful, and innovative artisanal products.
And in your experience, in your time here, you've seen, I'm sure, the quality and the variety go only one direction, and that's up.
Especially with the local industry, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I came from that industry,
right?
Where we would make kind of the cooler wines.
Sure.
Don't want to mention any names.
Yeah.
And today we are producing some wines that are winning awards internationally.
Yeah.
Very appealing to the Ontario industry, really to the Canadian industry, Canadian marketplace. I'm sorry. And I think there is more space for the Ontario industry to do even better.
That's exciting.
Right.
Let's change tracks a little bit. I want to talk about crime and organized retail crime across the country, which is certainly not limited in any kind of not limited to format, but it has been experienced for liquor and beer organizations across the country. Any lessons, any tips that from your experience in managing through that process on a day-to-day, month-to-month that you could share with retailers listening who are experiencing similar challenges?
Yeah, I think that's very relevant because theft is every retailer has the issue of theft, and I know every one of these retailers feels the same way as we do, that our employees and our customers' health and safety is paramount. It's a priority for us. So we would do anything and everything we can to ensure that our people and our customers are protected.
Right.
At the same time, I think you can appreciate, and I'm sure that other retailers will tell you the same, is that we're not very open with our strategy, especially to the media, simply because it's not the right thing to do to tell thieves what we're doing to protect our products and our people and so on, right? But nevertheless, we have lots of checks and balances in place today, whether it is the digital cameras that we have or many other things that we're doing to ensure that we also protect our assets.
So it's a mix of technology and people and process, all those things together, right?
Absolutely. And by the way, one thing that is not reported is the arrests that the police makes on regular basis. The other thing that I want to make sure people understand is that there has been some media reporting on theft at the LCBO, and I think that the last number I saw was $77 million. That's totally false. Theft is always been, the last 5-6 years, less than $6 million retail dollars. So it's a huge difference between what is reported versus reality. But nevertheless, the LCBO, just like any other retailer, we're doing everything we can using technology, different technologies. We're testing different technologies as well to ensure that we protect, our people and our customers.
Customers first, and
absolutely,
and then the margins and the product line second, third. Just make sure that keep that under control.
But overall, I think what's really important here and what's a priority to us is our employees and the customers.
Well, let's talk about what's next. Last question. What's next as you look ahead to 2020 and beyond? We've talked, you see trends of ready to drink. You talked about trends of lesser calorie, more demand to see the backstory of the product. But from your perspective, what's next for 2020 and beyond? Yeah,
and I'm very excited about the future of the LCBO and about the year that we're entering, which is April 1st. And as you know, we have a 3-year strategy plan, which I feel is very robust. But the future vision is really to be a best-in-class retailer and to introduce best-in-class personalized, easy-to-shop experience with convenient delivery options and a seamless integration between our stores and our digital channels. Our customers feel they are at the center of our strategy, and we'll leverage our key strengths, including the passion and expertise of our staff, to advance our omni-channel offerings to deliver what I call the best-in-class beverage alcohol shopping experience in-store as well as online and for our wholesale customers. So, as you know, recently the LCBO has faced increased competition as a result of the expansion of the sale of beer and cider and wine in grocery stores and in the convenience outlets, what we used to call the agencies. And this decision will continue to drive the transformation of the LCBO's business model moving forward. So, and the other thing we're doing, which is very exciting, is elevating our sustainability platform and continue to integrate the spirit of sustainability into everything we do. It's what I call good people, good planet, and good partnerships, the 3 Ps. And of course, innovation is key in the future. And some of the things that we're doing over the next year is to increase integration between online and our retail channels to make the LCBO a more convenient and a more engaging place to shop. We are modernizing product knowledge by providing our product consultants as well as our customer sales representatives with helpful digital content and the right tools that enable them to serve customers better. And as you know, being an insights-driven organization is incredibly important.
And very powerful, right?
And very powerful in allowing you to know, to truly know our customers and what their preferences are, so that we can serve up a customized experience anywhere our customers are shopping. And look, maximizing our digital channel to reach consumers with relevant and impactful marketing, with more rigorous content integration that would help us to enhance their physical experiences. So all of that is just some of the stuff that we're doing.
It's a full plate, or a full glass, I should say.
Absolutely, but very exciting, and I think that 2020 is going to be a great year.
Well, I heard this great phrase at the restaurant show when they were talking about sustainability and beverages and wine, called the world in your glass. And you've really helped bring that together for me here today. So thanks so much for being on The Voice of Retail. Really appreciate your time.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for doing the interview.
George, welcome back to The Voice of Retail. This is an unusual interview for me. I don't usually do follow-up interviews to attach to the main interview, because it's usually not that long before when I run the main interview. And you and I sat down together in mid-March, which on the calendar feels like a couple of days, but in reality, that feels like a very long time ago. I wanted to catch up with you briefly as an addendum and just ask about the current state of affairs at the LCBO. I'm a customer, so I have a good sense, but for the listeners across the country and behind the scenes, in our interview we just listened to, we talked about this infrastructure and the focus on building processes, and boy, I got to imagine that's been pressure tested during the current state of affairs. So how's LCBO coping, and what's your state of affairs?
Well, again, thank you, Michael, for doing this. I think you would agree that we're living in a time that was hard to imagine 7 weeks ago, even as a movie. And a lot has happened since we spoke in March. And as I always say, that these are extraordinary, really unprecedented times that require extraordinary actions. It's a very dynamic situation. While you can plan for a pandemic and you can have the best business continuity plan, there is no blueprint or a playbook for something of this size or this scale. There's really no historical parallel where you can you can look back. But in terms of the LCBO, we remain open. Of course, it's not business as usual. COVID-19 continues to evolve, and as we continue to serve our customers here in Ontario, we continue to adapt to new information, and we remain committed to implementing measures for the health as well as the safety of our customers and our employees. We've been following the guidance that is provided by the public health officials here in Ontario as well as from the federal government, and we've implemented several protective and supportive measures across our entire business. And again, we're doing a lot of what others are doing, which is best practices. But some of the things that we're doing, which are common sense, really, is we've increased cleaning and sanitization across our retail network, including our warehouses and, of course, our head office, although many of our head office employees are actually working from home. And we've managed to do that really effectively because we acted early in February. We are, as you know, operating on a shorter shopping window. We reduced hours and we closed our stores on Mondays to give our people time to recoup and to, make sure that the stores remain clean and organized. We do, anytime we have a suspected case or a confirmed case of COVID-19, we do conduct deep cleanings through a third-party vendor. We've implemented measures in the store that promote social distancing, and sanitization products are readily available for the customers and the employees. We manage the traffic flow within our stores to help maintain the safe distances, which is enforced through security at the front of the store as well as inside as much as possible. And we've, just like everybody else, we provided our employees with gloves. We had protective face shields that were custom made for us, for all of our employees. And we are, in fact, manufacturing our own hand sanitizer in our laboratory, and we're shipping it out to the stores as well as the warehouses.
That's so interesting. I have one of my advantage, so to speak, in our conversation is, I'm a customer, so I firsthand experience what you're doing. And I walked into my local store and I got a spritz of hand sanitizer right away. Yeah. And then, as you said, I saw most wearing the face shields and the plexiglass. Good. Things were up, and actually, I have to shout out to the folks who work at my local store. They're a great crew. Of course, they see me as I place my orders and pick up things, so we've come to know each other, and they're a great team. Congratulations to them.
Thank you for the feedback, Michael. And I hope you saw the plexiglass barriers that we installed at the cash desks across all of our retail network.
They don't look temporary. They look they're quite machined in, right?
Absolutely. The idea was to install them permanently, so they don't look like an afterthought. They're very good. I would feel very safe working behind one of these plexiglass shields. And when I visit the stores and I talk to our people, they're very happy about many of the steps that we've taken. Another step we've taken is to take the temperature of people, especially at our retail service centers, the distribution centers. And just like everybody else, we ask our customers if they're sick not to come into the store, to isolate themselves. If they're traveling, to again not to come to the store, and so on. And we've done quite a few things for our employees as well to make it easy for them to either stay home or come to work. So any LCBO employee who is returning from a trip or who is feeling unwell or is being tested or has tested positive with COVID-19, we don't want them to report to work. We want them to notify us. And employees are not required to provide medical notes during the COVID-19 pandemic. So absenteeism related to COVID-19 is exempt from our attendance management program. We want to give employees the comfort to just stay home if they're not feeling well. And another thing that we've done is we introduced 4 net new days of paid compassionate leave for all of our employees, all of our active employees, so that if they have a need for childcare, or if they're not feeling well, we don't want them to feel like they have to come to work, so that they can rest and they can feel comfortable that they're not losing that day.
Takes the pressure off, right? Takes that I'm looking after my mom, and that takes extra cycles as well, and
Yes.
that's a wonderful it's practically just a great thing to do.
Absolutely, and we've also been very clear with our customers that we need their support, and to continue to ask and remind them to be respectful of the protocols that we have put in place. And by far, the majority of customers have been very pleasant, very respectful, very compliant. So, and we're promoting these measures through signage in the stores, outside the stores. We have in-store announcements. We're using social media as much as possible. We have a dedicated COVID-19 section on our LCBO.com. And we're directly outreaching to customers who subscribe to our newsletters. In terms of our sales, the LCBO has seen an increase in sales across most channels in the month of March, with sales up significantly over the same time last year. The average sales per transaction was up considerably. We also saw a significant increase in our online, our e-commerce, as well as on-demand deliveries through Foodora, and really higher than average grocery and agency orders and shipments. And again, we did see some pantry loading. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So we have experienced increased sales across all of the categories, led by wines and by spirits.
And I guess that would be, these things would be offset by decreases in your commercial business with the restaurants and bars. So I guess some of that increase in retail sales is a transference of consumption, if we can put it that way, from external to the home, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and customers are also opting to purchase large format products such as multi-packs, the bag-in-a-box wine, the liter and a half, anything that's greater than 750 ml. Definitely, retail sales grew most significantly between March 12th and March 24th. That's when a lot of people did a lot of pantry loading.
And there was a fair bit of uncertainty behind, will they be open, will they not be open? And in Ontario, the government was changing whether some stores would be essential or non-essential. So there's probably a bit of concern that, I better make sure I've got what I need just in case. But now things have kind of normalized. I wanted to ask you about, you're in a position where you've been operating during the COVID crisis, operating really well. So again, congratulations on that from a customer's perspective. And retailers of all types, and I've been speaking to them, are trying to put together what a playbook looks like for the next how many months, year, whatever, to operate in an environment that's just different, right? Everything we do and every way we operate in retail is going to be different, some greater, some less. What's your advice to retailers? So I'll give you one example. You mentioned shorter hours, and some retailers have said, I'm a little worried about closing days because will it create just more volume on the other days? It becomes harder to manage, and we don't really know the outcome. But in general, what are your kind of top 2 or 3 tips to retailers who are now deemed non-essential? Maybe they're doing curbside, but now starting to think about and craft a blueprint or a playbook to reopen and operate.
No, I think that's a good question, because as the government is deciding when to open, I think that many small and medium-sized retailers will be looking at us for best practices, right? So I would say one of the most important advice that I have is make sure your teams know how valuable and how valued they are, because they can make or break you. These are the people that really run the company, and your success really depends on your people. So our employees are the heart of our business, and it's been priority number one to ensure they feel supported and that they're taken care of during this very uncertain, very stressful time. And any decisions must be made with their health and safety top of mind. incredibly important now, Michael. The other thing that I think is incredibly important is that you need to stay flexible and agile because these are uncertain times and you don't know what tomorrow may bring. So during the pandemic, it's been remarkable the speed at which our teams are making and implementing important business decisions to ensure that business continuity and the continued safe and efficient shopping experiences for our customers. Again, very important. Just give you an example. We expanded same-day pickup in a very short time. We expanded our Foodora delivery, again, in a very short time. We provided the 4 brand new compassionate days for employees very quickly. And again, we sped up and introduced in-store safety measures and signage, again, very quickly. So this is being agile and nimble in a situation like this is very, very important. And the other thing that's also incredibly important, and I hear many comments from our own people as well as our stakeholders and our suppliers, is communication is key during a time of uncertainty. So we've been in constant communication with all of our audience, our employees, our customers, our shareholders, the suppliers, and we're leveraging all of our channels to make sure that the message is sent out and it's received. So the result has been a clear understanding and a great collaboration and appreciation for the measures we have put in place. And the other thing that's important, and that's part of the communication, is that leadership needs to be visible. I visit stores, I call people, I get feedback. People are texting me, they're emailing me. Your people need to know how you're managing the situation so that they feel comfortable. They need to be recognized and share tips with your and advise and different programs on mental health with your people. Their well-being is incredibly important, and you need to provide them with whatever support tools you can provide them.
It's excellent. The nimbleness. I mean, you've seen it in all lines of business, but decisions that would have taken the committees to ponder and decide have been made. With bringing the right people together, and the decision is made and action is taken. But be nimble, right? Because the circumstances are changing underneath it all the time.
It's not easy to be agile and nimble in times like these, but you have to try your best. Simply because there are so many these are uncertain times, and you really don't know what tomorrow may bring.
So in addition to leading the LCBO, you're on the board of directors of the Retail Council of Canada. That's how you and I knew each other prior to interviewing. So, what's been your experience? How have retailers come together and through Retail Council of Canada? What's Retail Council of Canada's role? Not everyone understands it. They may see it a little more in the newspaper these days, but as from your seat on the board of directors, how have you seen retailers come together and start to work together to help think this out for all of us?
Yeah, at a time when retailers must come together, advocacy, information, and connectivity between business leaders is critical to our success. I must say that we're stronger because of the Retail Council of Canada's expertise and the support network they enable to share best practices. So, in my opinion, it has been incredibly valuable to me to hear the insights from other retailers, as well as being given the opportunity to share our ongoing learnings as we navigate COVID-19. So a big thank you to Diane Brisbois' team, because they're doing an incredible job. She and her team are working tirelessly, and this has been definitely a very positive experience and a very helpful organization for all of us.
I know Retail Council of Canada appreciates your leadership and leadership of your counterparts who sit on the board and provide such important direction. And I think it works well together now more than ever, and in the months and years to follow. George, thanks again so much for joining me for an addendum onto our original interview. It was such a treat talking with you, and thanks again for sharing your insights. And we'll be sure to check in the months to come to see how all this continues to play out.
You're welcome, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon under different circumstances.
Hi, it's Kent Allen, principal of the Research Trust and co-founder at the Global E-Commerce Leaders Forum. Very excited to announce the latest extension of the Global E-Commerce Leaders Forum events, the Global E-Commerce Tech Talks podcast. In partnership with Jim Okamura, Scott Silverman, and host Michael LeBlanc, we'll be debuting and discussing custom proprietary research designed specifically for global e-commerce retailers. We'll be talking to e-commerce industry leaders around the world to help us sharpen our saw blades when it comes to doing business across borders. Check out the 1-minute trailer episode available now on Apple and Spotify, plus all the major podcast platforms, with episodes debuting every 2 weeks.
Jennifer, welcome to the Voice of Retail. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, you just came off the stage, a bit of judging in the wine category. Tell us a little bit about that. We're at the Restaurant Canada show here in Toronto. Tell us, even before we jump in, a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about what you just did.
Yeah, so super fun. It's the first time they have done this. It was a little sommelier smackdown. So it was all just service.
Yeah.
We didn't do any blind wine tasting or throw them through a bunch of questions at this point. It was the top 6 competitors who had got the top marks from a prior exam, I should say. Mm-hmm. And so they were all competing live on stage.
Wow. No pressure.
No pressure getting, hammered with questions by the judges and doing the service at the same time.
Fun.
So it was amazing to watch them. They were pros, and and in the end we were just able to announce the winner and give him $3,000. So
wow.
The first time that they've done this, I've been involved in many Canadian Ontario sommelier competitions, but the first time that Restaurants Canada has had a competition like this.
Neat. Well, we got a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I thought it was fun just after you rolled off the stage. So tell us a little bit about your personal professional journey. You mentioned sommelier. You're a master sommelier. One of 3 in Canada, an elite group around the world. 5 now? 5 in Canada?
Now 5, that's right.
Oh, 5, ooh. Okay, so you're one of 5. That's still amazing, terribly amazing. So give us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you chose this path.
Well, I have been working in the restaurant industry since I was 15. I started in a pizza shop. And I loved it. I actually learned how to make the dough, and it was just a really fun atmosphere. I loved working around people and building those relationships. And so I started off there, and when I was in university and struggling with what am I going to do, I was working in a restaurant as well as waitress, and the chef introduced me to wine. He was very passionate about wine. He was a great cook and also really loved wine. And so it was very infectious, his passion, and he really knew how to match food and wine together to just create that kind of magical experience. And so I just started reading. I started taking a night course at the local college, and I fell in love with it. And so I just kept going. I did my sommelier certification, and then I did my diploma of wine, and then my advanced, and finally my master somm, which took me 6 years itself.
Wow.
And I passed in 2011 in Dallas.
Well, tell us a little bit about what's involved in that. So you've already said it's about a 6-year journey just for the master somm piece. So you've obviously got to go through a whole lot of training and certification. I mean, given that there's 5 in Canada and less than 300 in the world, it's obviously not an easy thing to accomplish, regardless of the time you put into it, right?
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. It's an exam that you tend to pass when you're ready, and it's of course about theory, and it's of course about tasting blind wines and being able to identify them, and it's of course about being able to do service like we just witnessed on the stage in front of people on a timeline, doing all the technical aspects as well as answering questions and all the other stuff. But it's also a personal journey because everything needs to sort of come together to pass. You just need to kind of be there in your profession when you can bring yourself into those very nerve-wracking exams and be able to be present and to be able to perform sort of live under pressure. And there's a few different things about our exam. For example, it's all verbal for the theory. So it's not how we're used to sitting an exam. We're used to sitting with a piece of paper and a pen and looking at the questions. And so in this case, you're just being hammered with questions, and you have to be able to put it into context and answer it properly. So things like this that make it, I guess, a little bit more tricky,
right,
to pass.
It's interesting because as I think about a designation like that, you have to be. Is it something that you can be born good at, or is it something you can train at? Like the ability, seems like there's a couple of great abilities you need to do what you do. One is you need to be able to detect subtle flavor differences and be able to, secondly, articulate them in all kinds of different ways. I love the ways, it tastes like, leather on a saddle. I mean, it's a very colorful language, right? And then the technical and the background. Is it something you can learn, or is it something?
100%. You train up to it. It's like being, an elite athlete. You don't just start that way one day. You may be predisposed to being a great athlete, but then you have to put the work in, and you have to, and so for myself, I started training my nose seriously 11 years before passing my master SOM exam. So, being able to identify hundreds of things blind just by nosing them.
But were you already predisposed, like the athlete, to detecting them?
Did I have a decent nose? I would say average. I would say I really worked on that. Really hard. And we can all smell things, but it's different putting it into, developing those pathways in your brain, because when you, of course, are smelling and tasting something in a wine, you're physically not seeing it. I'm not seeing a rose and then smelling it. I'm pulling that out of the glass.
And so much what we drink and eat is visual, right? It's connecting those two things.
It's visual, but we can smell a lot more things than we can taste. So that's what's actually really interesting about it. Yeah.
Well, let's jump into the world of wine. What are the big wine trends that you're seeing and around the world, and things that are on top of your mind, and things that you're starting to observe for 2020 and beyond?
Well, I think there's a couple things that are going to continue to be hot, which is dry rosé. Dry rosé was the biggest category growth as far as wine goes in Canada, to my understanding. In 2019, it was certainly massive. So that is something that I think is a continuing trend, and what we have seen is that folks are drinking dry rosé all throughout the year. It used to be a summertime thing. Sure. And it used to be on the patio, not necessarily with food, where now rosés are coming into play with food and wine matching, and they're not just seasonal, which is exciting. I also think that vegan friendly wine and vegan certified wines are a big trend. We have seen this within the food sector. While vegan is not a diet, it's a lifestyle, it also entails, of course, a diet. And if you look at it in that context, it is the fastest growing diet, if we will, beating out keto, gluten-free, and other significant things right now. And so that translates also into wine, because people who want to eat vegan or are vegan would also like their beverages to be vegan. They like everything they consume.
Unpack that for me. What do you mean a vegan wine? I would think it comes from grapes. And
and I think this is the natural assumption. However, wine can be, when wine is filtered and fine, if we take it in its simplest form, where would a wine go wrong and not be vegan? When it's filtered and fine, they can use products that would normally be found around the farm. So things like egg whites, historically ox blood was a big one.
Really?
Fish bladders, yes.
I had no idea.
You wouldn't. And so these have been historically major filtering products, right? So to clear your wine of sediment and so forth. There are other alternatives to that, like pea protein is making kind of a big stand right now. Also just using membrane filters and things that are would be considered vegan friendly. And then of course you can go farther than that. And what's happening in the vineyard, you know what I mean? Are you using horses to plow? Are you using animals, so forth and so on? So right now you have, I would say, sort of two levels. You have vegan certified wineries. So these are wineries that went through the process of getting third-party certified.
So beyond organic, this is
it's totally different than organic.
Totally different.
Yeah, it's totally different. It just means that they're not using any animals or animal byproducts in their vineyards or making wine.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great segue into my next question. You're working on a book about food pairings, and you mentioned it right off the top that you got into being a somm based on this intersection and wonderful integration of food and wine, and you're working on a book with plant-based proteins and wine pairings. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm collaborating with a friend and an amazing entertainer and entrepreneur, and she herself is vegan. So Pri and I created The Social Herbivore just to bring to light great plant-based food with wine. So all of our classic matches, of course, are like lamb and Bordeaux, and
it's really an art and science, right? Of that food.
It is an art and science,
matching.
And the challenge is if you are plant-based, or if you're entertaining somebody who's coming over, and how many times have I heard it lately? Oh, my son's wife is vegan, or I'm entertaining people and half of them are vegan. What do I do? And so we're just trying to discuss, like, first of all, let's understand the concept of we can have great food and wine pairings and moments with plant-based food and wine. And then how do you go about that? So we go directly into recommending, here's a dish, here's how you make it. We've tried it with these wines. This is what we really like. So we're doing 4 different seasonal ones on our website, and we're presenting those as ebooks on our website. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Tell me a little bit about, when you think of the ecosystem, wine producers, distributors, retailers, what are the wine trends that wine retailers across the country should be aware of and thinking about? You've mentioned one in terms of
I think the big one
wines.
is sustainability. And I think that this is a big word right now in the wine business. The wine business has been affected, like other agricultural crops, in, climate change and, what's happening with fires. Think about Australia. Think about California. So being as green as you can, being sustainable, is very important. And to that end, there are many places that have a sustainability certification. And what's great about sustainability is that it goes beyond the vineyard. So it's not exactly like organics in that it focuses on things like, how do you treat your people? And are you transporting that product in the most sustainable way possible? Is your packaging sustainable? Are you being a sustainable part of your community?
I just heard someone on the stage talking about that consumers are looking at the world on their plate, and now you're talking about the world in their glass, right? So interesting that they're thinking about, and so retailers should be thinking about that when they make their selections of what they present, and even sections based on that. Is that 100%. Should they be that forward?
And when you're thinking about who is the growing demographic as far as buying wine specifically, and where is the growth opportunity, and it's certainly with the younger generation, with millennials. And millennials are very conscious buyers, and they want to see that there's an effort made by the wine that they're buying, that there is a lot of thought behind that. So it's very important.
So interesting. Well, I can't have someone of your caliber on the podcast without asking you a few recommendations for the listeners. So I'd be amiss if I didn't ask, 3 picks that you would say you might not be aware of today, but if you're listening, you should go out and grab. What 3 would those be? Okay,
well, I'm a girl who's all about value. I like to save my money. I can drink more that way. So I would say look for Spanish reds. I feel like there's so much value right now in Spain. And you can, of course, go to the classic places like Rioja, but also look out for emerging regions like Priorat, for example. So the reds from there are really delicious, and you can get a lot of bang for your buck in the $25, $35 region.
Great.
I am a go local girl for sure. So I am really enjoying, one of my mottos is when I go to the LCBO and do my shopping, I always have something in my basket that is local. And so I think Prince Edward County is doing really great Chardonnay right now. So there's many great producers out there. Just look for any of them. You probably won't be disappointed. So Chardonnay from Prince Edward County.
Great.
And I would say, again, rosé all day. I'm a rosé girl.
Rosé. Love that.
Go for dry ones.
Yeah.
You won't get a hangover in the morning. And again, Canada's making some great dry rosés. I love mine personally, also from southern France. So the Languedoc, it offers amazing value, and you can get a great rosé there for under $20.
Oh, fantastic. So if people want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah. So you can reach out. I have a website, jenhutherms.com.
Okay, very good. Well, listen, thanks for making the time to speak with the Voice of Retail. Real treat. I love wine myself, so it's an extra bonus for me to be able to meet you and chat about wine.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks to George and Jennifer for a unique pairing on this episode. We'll return in the weeks to come with the top retail stories from Retail This Week. In the meantime, be sure and subscribe to the Retail This Week e-newsletter on retailcouncil.org, largest one in the nation. That's a wrap on this edition of the Voice of Retail. If you like this podcast, you can subscribe on Apple iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. Please rate and review, and be sure to recommend to a friend or colleague in the retail industry. I'm Michael LeBlanc, founder and president of Emmy LeBlanc Company, Inc. You can learn more about me on www.emmyleblanc.co or, of course, on LinkedIn. Until next time, have a safe week.